Hello students, today I'm going to be showing you how we are going to do this annotation assignment on Google Drive. I'm going to show you everything you need to do so that we can get this completed and turned in correctly. And the reason that we're going to do it on Google Drive is there's several advantages. So the first is that you can easily share your annotation with others who can just see it through their email address. Another is you can have multiple people collaborating on the same document in the future, which is also a very helpful possibility. It's easy to turn in. You can do it anywhere you have internet access, or if you don't have internet access, you can do it there too. There are lots of reasons that doing annotations online are helpful and great, and it also protects books. A lot of times, especially English majors, they write in their books, and then the people who check out their textbooks after that already have all of your information in the books, which can make it different for their learning. They're getting your interpretation instead of their own. So doing it online is a very good way to annotate and keep books intact for other people, as well as all of those other things that I already mentioned. So I'm going to show you how to do this today. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to open up our document. So you're going to have been given a document link from me, and there are about 6 different poems. So more than one person is going to have the same poem, but each of you has your own document because this is going to be an individual assignment. So you're going to open up this annotation assignment in your Google Drive, and I'm just going to go ahead and scroll down to where my poem starts. So this is called, the English translation is Eve's Apology in Defense of Women. That's what this poem is named after. And I chose this poem for an example because I think it's a very good poem, and I think there's a lot that we can annotate in here. So I'm going to show you how we're going to annotate it. So annotating is when you write in the text things for understanding, you circle words you may not know, you ask questions and find answers, you define things, you highlight important bits of information. So this is just going to be a form of that, but on Google Drive. And annotating is important because it helps further your understanding of the text, it helps further your understanding of literature in general, and it's a really good way to do close reading of a text. So we're going to go ahead and start annotating. So this poem, it says, "Now Pontius Pilate is to judge the cause." So if I'm reading this as someone who doesn't have a theological background, which means a background in Christianity knowledge, then I'm not going to really maybe understand what this means. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and highlight this. So how you highlight is you take your mouse, you can just go over it, then you're going to click this little marker up here and pick a color. I'm just going to pick yellow, but you can pick a color that you want as long as the text is visible. Okay, now there are 2 things that we need to do to annotate this piece of text. You can't just highlight it for no reason. So what we need to do is we need to, 1, check the footnotes and see if it gives us who this person is, or 2, define this this person or this phrase by ourselves. So in a lot of poems, there are footnotes. Footnotes are at the bottom of your piece of text that will explain different things throughout your text. And as we can see, there are some footnotes right here. So it says line 744. So that's the first line of the poem, Pontius Pilate. So it tells us who this person that we just highlighted is. He was the 5th Roman governor of Judea, Samaria, and I don't think I'm going to be able to pronounce that correctly. But his involvement is in the judgment of Jesus, is recorded in Matt of the Bible. So we don't even have to look up who this person is because our footnote right here tells us exactly who it is. But that's a lot of scrolling down to that. So let's go ahead and put an annotation so we remember who this is. So once you highlight it, you're going to click this little plus button. This is an adding in the comment. This would be similar to writing in your text with handwriting, okay? And this will tell you who is making the comment, especially if you're working as a group, which we won't for this assignment, but in the future. And you can add your annotation. So what I'm going to say is he was the ruler and he condemned Jesus to be crucified, okay? He's the one who gave the order that Jesus would be crucified. So that way in the future, if someone, maybe you don't have that theological biblical knowledge, so that way you know who that person is. Excuse me, I gotta plug my computer in here. Okay, so we have our first annotation. So let's keep going. And there are no set certain amount of annotations that you're going to exactly need. You can kind of pick anything that you need, any question that you have that you don't understand, or anything like that. I'm so sorry. I needed to plug in my computer. I'll be right back. Okay, so now that my computer isn't going to die, we're going to keep going. So we're going to keep reading this poem. So this next line, this is line 3 of this poem. It says, although who neither hath offended prince nor laws. So this can be kind of confusing, or maybe this wording, you have to like think about it before you know what it means. So it's helpful to add an annotation here so that you understand it without having to kind of make that adjustment in your mind. You just automatically know. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight it like that. Then I'm going to add a comment. So the comment is going to be, Jesus did not break any laws or defy the government, but was sentenced to die anyways. So there we go. There's that comment. Now, if you don't understand what this means, of course, you can open up a tab in Google. You can open up another tab and you can say, you could type it in, you can look in books, you can say, what does this line mean? Who neither hath offended prince nor laws. What does that mean? Now, it's going to give this highlighting color. And I like to highlight with my own highlighting things like terms, phrases, people. If it's like a whole line of the poem like this, I don't highlight it personally. I just add a comment because it gives that color anyways. But if you would like to highlight it maybe in a different color, you can do that. As I said, you can pick whatever color that you need from here. So I'm going to show you some other tools now that we know how to make a comment. We know how to look up information if we need it. We know how to highlight. I'm going to come down here. So say you don't know what the word indiscretion means. So you can also underline this text. You can come up here and click underline. Okay. So there you go. That's underlined now. If that's not clear enough to you, of course you can highlight it, but another option is to change the text color. This is this line right next to this marker. You can click that. Maybe let's make it bright red. That way, if we do have to highlight it later, we can still see that red print. You can also make it in italics or bold by clicking these little buttons up here. So now it's in italics and bold. So you can underline, change the text color, highlight, add a comment, make something italic, make something bold. You could change, I don't recommend this, but if you really want something to stand out, you could change the font of a particular sentence. So that is how we are going to be annotating in Google Drive for this project. You're each going to have a poem, and I want you to annotate it just like I did. Add your comments here. If you need to look up information, make sure to add where you got this information from. And also don't forget to look at those footnotes because it might give you the information that you're asking. Another really important annotation technique is to ask questions. So the questions I like to ask are, what does this mean? What did the author intend by this? Not necessarily, what does this word mean? Because if your question is, what does this word means? You need to go figure out what that word means and put that definition of the word into your annotation. But asking a question maybe about symbolism or what the author meant, or maybe if there's a hypocritical part of the text, you can make a question out of that. So let me find a good place to ask a question and show you what I mean. So right here, okay, so it says, no hurt therein her harmless heart intended. So let's go ahead and ask a question. How does the author know that Eve intended no harm. How does he know that? Why does he know that? And for all of these questions, you may not get an answer. You may not ever know what the answer to this question is. But asking questions while reading helps you understand what you're reading and think about it closely, especially if you have to write an analysis of this essay, which we will be doing. If you have to write an analysis, these questions can help you create a thesis statement for you to write your paper about. So now we know how to annotate in Google Drive. You're going to turn in your link. It's already shared with me, so don't worry about that. You're going to turn in your link on Google Classroom, and that is how you will be doing this assignment. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and email me at my school email, and I look forward to seeing your annotations.